you know what happens when a cuckoo hatches inside another bird's nest? Oh, dear me, I'm terribly sorry. The 4th generation Renault Clio, it's one of the most popular small cars in Europe. But is it any good? Should you care? Why, let's find out, shall we? Renault, on y va!
Here we are with anchors tying us to what we'll call home, even if the sight of it has not yet touched our eyes. And here we are and we're together, even if we are apart. And we're together when we're together, something big is happening among us. It's not as if we don't have to deal with our...
Welcome to yet another episode of Tweed Jacket Reviews. Today we are at Summit Garage in Dudley. And we're testing this 2017 Renault Clio 1.2 Dynamique Nav. This is a Mark IV Renault Clio, and this generation came out in 2012, although the styling is actually really similar to the 5th generation that's currently still in production. So thanks Summit Garage, thumb it. Before we get into too much detail about the Mark IV Renault Clio, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, to like this video and to leave a comment below. It really helps us to reach more viewers on YouTube and helps to spread the love of Tweed Jacket Reviews all over the internet. So the Mark IV Renault Clio is the 4th in this incredibly long line of cars stretching back to 1990. On No Budget Reviews we've covered some older Renault models, such as the Mark I began twice, both a hatchback and a saloon, and also a Renault 5, the Super 5 version that was in 1994. So I'm intrigued to see what sort of modern Renault range is like, because I haven't really driven too many of these. The last one I think I drove was a Capture, which was not the best experience I had. It was a previous generation one, which is very similar to this in some ways. That was back in about 2017. This car, unbelievably, is still under its original manufacturer's warranty. It's I think a July 2017 car, something about that. And at the time Renault were offering a 4-year warranty, so this car's under warranty, and unbelievably it's just got 3,000 miles on the clock, which is insane really. The engines available in one of these 4th generation Clios were a 1.2 normally aspirated petrol with 75 horsepower. That's also the same engine that was in the base level Dacia Sandero, and this is the one we've got here today. There was also a 0.9 litre engine, or 9cc, in 2 different power outputs, 75, like this one's the same power output as this, and 90 horsepower. Further up the range there was a 1.2 turbo, known as the TCE, that had 120 horsepower, and then above that there were 2 1.6 turbos which were used for the Renault Sport models. One for the standard one, which was 200 horsepower, and one for the trophy version that was 220 horsepower. There were also some diesels available, but as usual, you ready, Mr. Franks? We don't talk about diesels on this channel. Mr. Franks, of course, as it was with so many episodes of Tweed Jacket Reviews, will be helping me out with the filming today. The trim levels available on this facelifted Mark IV Clio, but was introduced in 2016, were Expression, Play, Dynamique Nav, like this one, and Dynamique S Nav. Above that, of course, were the two Renault Sport models, the Renault Sport Clio and the Renault Sport Trophy Clio. There were also a myriad special editions, which of course are contained within my secret mission documents, and so we're going to have to talk about those a bit later. First impression of this car is this probably isn't the engine that you want to use for rapid progress. It's only got 75 horsepower, and although the car feels comfortable enough, and the astonishing low mileage means that it feels almost new, I think the only reason I can see to buy this one is to sort of maybe save a bit of money, or to just for town use only, really. Not particularly the most sprightly of engines. It does 0 to 60 in 14.8 seconds, whereas if you bought a 1.2 turbo petrol and after the facelift of 2016 that was available with a 6-speed manual gearbox as opposed to just an automatic that was originally available with that engine, that does 0 to 60 in about 9 seconds, so a big contrast. When we get onto the sort of more open roads later, we'll put this 0 to 60 claim to a test. So it's a little bit on the sluggish side, and you can tell the engine's just an older type of engine, and it makes a difference of sound from, you know, these sort of downsized 900cc and 1.2 turbocharged engines. Mind you, it's still relatively economical, probably 50 miles per gallon or something like that. But I can't help thinking with this particular engine that it belongs really in the Mark 1 Megane and not in the 2017 Clio. Visibility also is a slight concern, because in this particular trim, although it's got a nice setting for driving eco tips and navigation, it doesn't actually have a reversing camera, and there are no parking sensors. And with the rear styling of the car, which is it's a nice looking car, but it does sort of block that visibility a bit, and so it does mean that it's difficult to see out of, although it's a relatively small car, so you probably get used to it. One of the things I'm noticing when driving this car is actually just how compliant the ride is. The ride is actually very good for a car like this. If you were driving this back to back to something like, I don't know, a 4th generation Kia Rio or an MG3, for example, you'd notice the ride is a little bit softer than that. One of the things that I remembered from driving that Renault Capture a few years ago is the cruise control switch, which for some reason, where the controls on this rather nice steering wheel are for going up and down in speed, and actually setting the cruise control, the actual switch for activating it is down by the gear lever right down here, which is a very, very bizarre ergonomic choice. I don't know why they did that. I remember driving a Megane with the 1.2 turbo engine on the Autobahn in Germany when I was trying to get to the airport, and we were stuck in a big traffic jam, and had the same issue in a very sort of modern looking interior, apart from the cruise control switch, which is down by this by the handbrake, which is really, really strange. I don't understand why they've done that. One thing I've noticed on this Dynamique Nav model is the eco menu, which says that the previous people who drive in this car over the last 3,000 miles have scored 72 out of 100. 3 stars acceleration, 4 stars gear shift, and 4 stars anticipation. And we've got an eco coaching menu here. Obviously we're stopped so we can have a look at this and a trip report. But now we're off again. I think that's going to be a bit of a distraction, so I'm just going to put that back onto the main menu. Yeah, just a very old-fashioned type of engine, which I think these have a cam belt in them. The 0.9 litre one doesn't. That's a chain cam engine. This is a cam belt engine. So obviously, if you are buying one of these, make sure that the cam belt is changed at specified intervals. It's not at all difficult to drive. The gearbox actually feels better than I was expecting from one of these cars. I remember driving a Mark II Renault Clio many years ago. I think it was about 12 years old at the time, and it was a 2000 car. I wasn't particularly keen on it, principally because the rear headroom was really bad, and there seemed to be sort of issues with the engine and things like that. It didn't last particularly long, but this This is so much better in terms of the cabin materials and the cabin ambience. It's an awful lot of an improvement over previous Clios that I've been in. So now we're out of the 30 limit, let's test some acceleration. Wow. I don't think we're going to be breaking any speed records today. It's sort of a case of holding onto those gears as long as you possibly can in order to actually make any progress. The brakes are good though. There's somebody suddenly pulled out in front of us there, and the brakes are excellent. I think this would probably drone a bit on the motorway as well. We've got the cruise control and everything. But when you're choosing your Mark IV Clio, make sure at least you go for the 900cc 90 horsepower engine, or the 1.2 120. Probably best avoid unless you are exclusively driving in town. Anyway, let's go and park up somewhere and have a look at this car in more detail.
Here we are with anchors tying us to what we'll call home, even if the side of it has not yet touched our eyes. And here we are and we're together, even if we are apart. And we're together when we're together, something big is happening among us. It's not as if we don't have to deal with our shortcomings. It's not as if we don't have
I do love conventional handbrakes. Right, that was not quite as fast as I was expecting. Anyway, let's take a look at the Mark IV Clio's more practical side and take a look in the boot. One thing I don't like about this car is when you get out of it with the key in your pocket, it automatically locks if you're not careful. That could be very dangerous. So if we go round to the back of the car, it is I think, an attractive design. And there is this big Renault badge. They could have probably put the release in the middle of there, but never mind. So if we just go here, so the boot size of the Mark IV Clio is about 300 litres. That's bigger than a Mark 7 Fiesta. It's bigger than an MG3. It's not quite as big though as a 4th generation Kia Rio. If we lift that up, Mr. Frank's camera bag is in the boot there. We can see there's no provision whatsoever in this car for a spare wheel. There's no way you get that in there. So you're left with a tyre repair kit. You do get this nice handy branded Renault bag. That's pretty good. There don't seem to be any bag hooks in here. There's no 12-volt socket, but there is a boot light just over here. One thing you'll notice though is that there's no adjustable height boot floor, and the step in the boot, if you fold the rear seats, is absolutely enormous. It's probably bigger than anything else I've ever seen. So just bear that in mind when you're choosing this car for big loads. One of the things I've not seen for quite a long time on Tweed Jacket reviews, especially with the modern cars we film, is this window winder in the back. On the Dynamique Nav trim, you don't get any electric rear windows. I'm going to leave that door open actually because the cabin's quite dark in here. The headroom's okay. With the seat in my driving position, and I'm 5'11", there's not an awful lot of knee room. It's not as bad as some cars of this type and this age, but it's not the best either. The upholstery actually in this car feels quite nice. It's sort of a mixture of kind of cloth and this sort of vinyl. It's not leather or anything like that, but it looks very, very hard wearing. And there seems to be zips either side of here to remove this the seat cover if you want to clean it. The door actually has an enormous pocket at the bottom, which is quite nice. And there's no soft touch materials here or anything like that, but that's no surprise. A Kia Rio or MG3 don't have soft materials either. The car from the outside looks a bit like a coupe or 3-door, but it's actually a 5-door, and all Mark IV Clios are 5-door. So you know, it does look reasonably sporty. I'll have to move that headrest up to get comfortable if I sit back. You can fold the seats. You just press that button there. Although, as is happening now, the seat belts are all snagging everywhere, so that would be a bit of a problem. And of course, if you put that back up, does the seat belt on the left side snag? Yes, it does. Oh dear. Of course, if you're sensible, you'll put the seatbelt in this little clip here, but I'm not sensible today. Don't know why. Anyway, we've got this interesting device here. This would have been an ashtray back in the day. I don't know what you call it now. I don't know, chewing gum holder, who knows? There's no 12-volt socket in the back here, no USB ports or anything like that. There's no light in here for rear passengers either. There's only one in the front. I do like these rear door handles though. They're actually a lot better than some of the others you get in cars of this class. So if you get into the front, it really does follow through this sort of coupe styling, but there's plenty of headroom, but you sit quite low, and the driving position is of a kind of almost like an F1 car. It's quite remarkable actually. I sort of like it though. One of the main things about this cabin though, and it's the same on a lot of Renault models of this era, is this cruise control switch. It's nice for all cars in the Clio range had cruise control by this stage, but why, when the controls for, you know, increasing or decreasing the speed with cruise control are on the steering wheel up here and this is down there, I really don't know. The other problem is that if I pick up my secret mission documents and attempt to fit them in the glove box, you'll see that the fuse box has not been moved from left to right hand drive, and so I can't fit them in. My French counterpart, Monsieur M.Poulain, will now explain why that is. Ah, monsieur, vous n'avez pas besoin de ce dossier. So, with this Dynamique Nav model, we've got a USB port up here and an aux in just there as well. If I switch the car on, which is done by pressing the start button here, again, this is another thing that's not been moved from left to right hand drive, so it should be here but it's there, which is strange. But we actually got the eco menu that I mentioned before. We're still on 72 out of 100 in terms of our score, and it does a little bit of eco coaching for you as well, which tells you little things to say to improve the fuel economy and limit engine wear and tear. Use the high performance engine oil developed by Renault and Elf, available exclusively in the Renault network. Do not leave the engine idling. It is more efficient to drive as soon as you start the engine. There's all kinds of exciting things here. So we'll go back to the home screen just here. We do have sat nav, which should show us where we are. Yeah, we're not actually driving anywhere. We're just sitting stationary. And here we are. We are at Hemley Hall, just near Dudley. It's reasonably easy to use. I've used one of these sat navs before, and it's actually not that bad. The icons are easy to hit. We've got sort of a radio here. I'm not sure if we've got DAB. We might not actually we do. So there it is. We've got DAB radio as well. You can connect your phone via Bluetooth. I don't think this is the more expensive R-line system. This is just the media nav system. If you stepped up to the Dynamique S nav trim, then you would have got the R-line system, which is a bit better than this. The radio does actually have though this sort of volume control, although for some reason it's on this side. It's a bit strange, but it's there. You can obviously turn that off entirely if you want to. The controls of here are very easy to use. This car's only got standard air conditioning, and they feel actually quite high quality for this sort of car. It's a real step up from sort of older Renault models. We've also got a 12-volt socket down here at the bottom, which is useful for plugging a separate sat nav if that's what you felt you wanted to do. And of course there are some cup holders down here, a thing for holding, I don't know, a mini brioche, I'm not really sure what you put in there, and a nice conventional handbrake.
Monsieur.
Oui.
Pourquoi?
Pourquoi? So again, in the front, we don't get any kind of soft touch materials in here, but you don't get those in a 4th generation Kia Rio or an MG3 or many other cars like this. The electric window switches are a bit interesting. Only got 2 electric windows in this car, but that's not really a surprise. We're not really at the top of the range or anything like that. You can see the steering wheel's nice and simple. There are only a couple of controls on here because the controls to operate the stereo remotely are actually here. They're on the right hand side of the steering wheel. What's nice about the car is you get automatic lights and wipers as standard. If I turn it on again using the button down here, you can see that the instruments are all digital. This was not that common at the time. It's very common now, but it wasn't very common at the time. There's not really anything you can do about changing the display particularly. It just has the speedometer right in the middle. I don't know if you can change that to kilometers per hour. That'd be useful if you're going on holiday to Normandy. There are some blanking switches here. I don't know what those are for, because we have got front fog lights in this car. I don't know what those would be for. Maybe if you had an automatic model it would be for something else. We open up the door, just turn the engine off. We don't need that at the moment. You can see the secret mission documents do just about fit in the door pocket, but they have to fit that way up, because if I lift that out you can see there's really not much room in here for anybody to store much. I don't know why, because the glove box is so small, so are the door pockets. I don't know where you put your little odds and ends apart from these open things sort of here. Maybe you're supposed to fit everything. You're supposed to fit all that you need inside this chewing gum holder. The visibility in this car is interesting. Further up the range you can get parking sensors and a reversing camera. In this particular model that we don't have either, and so you've got to be pretty good with your reversing skills. That is helped by these mirrors, which are quite large, but if it's a problem I'd recommend either going for a car that would have come with an optional reversing camera. I think you could get one of the lower trims, or just going for the Dynamique S. These vents are interesting. They sort of remind me of sort of older kind of eyeball style vents in much older cars than this. One of the things that Renault were very, very big on with the Mark IV Clio was the fact that you could change the air vents around, for example, or even the sort of colour of this dashboard with sort of personalisation options. I think it's better to have it in a more restrained colour these days. The dashboard actually feels not too bad. I've actually got some squidgy materials on the top, because this is a Dynamique Nav. The lower models wouldn't have come with that at all. The forward view is also a bit like an MPV or something like that. There's an awful lot of dashboard in front of you, and because the bonnet slopes away so much, you can't see what's in front of you at all. And I don't think you could get front parking sensors at all on this model. In conclusion then, what do I think of the Mark IV Renault Clio? I can understand why this is one of Europe's best-selling cars. It is quite stylish. It's more spacious and better quality than older Renaults that I know of. And yes, it does come with some good engines. However, I would avoid this particular engine. It's really not up to scratch. Oh, dear me. I'm so sorry. That is a 1948 Rolls-Royce Silver Wraith. Thank you for watching this episode of Tweed Jacket Reviews. I source cars for people on a professional basis. To find out more, please visit the links in the description below. Thank you.
Ah, monsieur, vous n'avez pas besoin de se tortiller.
Et je ne sais quoi, my name is Nick and I am a chef from Edinburgh.